All right, y'all, check this out. We got another video for today. It's coming from Tap Out Corner. We're going to be checking out the top 10 worst wrestling moments of 2024. Now, I do understand it's 2025, but you know what I mean. This is my first post of the year. So, you know, cut me a little bit of slack. If you're brand new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe if you are brand new. Man, we're not going to waste no more time. Let's get right on into it. I'm expecting to see certain things. There are also certain things from other companies I want to see up here too. But without any further ado, I'm not going to waste any more of y'all time. Let's get right into it.
These are the top 10 worst things that happened in wrestling in 2024.
Hell
This
yeah.
list is open to any company, WWE, AEW, TNA, and more. Nobody is off the hook. And to make things interesting,
Damn right.
we'll find out at the end which company
All right.
is the worst.
It's certain things I'm expecting to see on this list now.
Company getting a strike. The higher the ranking, the more strikes the company will get. The company with the most strikes at the end had the worst 2024. With that out of the way, let's start with
Number 10, Samantha Irvin leaves WWE.
Okay.
Despite being a re-announcer,
Okay, that's a fair. That's
somewhat
fair.
divided on Samantha Irvin. One side loves the energy and personality she brought to reintroductions, while the other thinks she took too much from the show. I think a wrestling show works best when everyone is doing the best job they can, so I always appreciated Irvin's reintroductions. However, in October 2024, Samantha Irvin abruptly left WWE. Apparently, the reason for Irvin's departure was to pursue a music career and other projects that she couldn't focus
You know, and that kind of sucks for real though, bro, because it's like, see, I was a big fan of Samantha Irvin and all. Like I feel like when you think of the great ring announcer, you think of, Lillian Garcia, you think of, you know who I thought was gonna be like fire, who's gonna like Hall of Fame worthy, like a Hall of Fame like voice. His name's like Greg something. Y'all gonna know what I'm talking about in the comments below. Greg something. He was crazy before he got fired. I liked him as a ring announcer. And then, he got into his own little, I forgot what happened. Something about, I don't know. He just started tweaking out on like Twitter or something. And then they packed him up, replaced him with this right here. And then it's like, it was just fire. But, Samantha, that was a tough loss. That was a tough loss.
Being part of WWE. However, I think the most shocking revelation came directly from Samantha herself. While replying to a comment on social media,
Right, I saw this when it happened.
Really liked re-announcing, and it was more of a way for her to get into WWE. It was surprising because she seems so passionate about announcing.
That shit kind of hurt when I found out about that.
I get that Samantha Irvin was just a re-announcer, but she was on a roll and on her way to potentially being the greatest announcer of all time. I wouldn't rule out a return, but if Samantha Irvin comes back as a re-announcer, I think it's gonna feel a bit awkward knowing that it was just a stepping stone. Strike one for WWE. Number 9.
That's his name, Greg Helmington. I just thought about it. Greg Helmington. I think that's his name. Bro, it's tough on the mic.
Uso versus Jay Uso. WWE has a fascinating tradition of having real-life brothers face off at WrestleMania every 15
Jimmy and Jay's up here?
At WrestleMania 10, it was Bret Hart versus Owen Hart. At WrestleMania 25, it was Jeff and Matt Hardy. And at WrestleMania 40, it was Jimmy and Jay Uso. On paper, Uso versus Uso sounds like a good idea. They were key parts of the Bloodline storyline that had been going on since 2020.
Right.
The WrestleMania match had a ton of build and a great story. It seemed impossible to mess up. So here's how they messed it up. The match was slow, with awkward pauses throughout. It just never really got going, which led to the crowd dying, which made things even worse. In fact, Jimmy Uso had to yell at his own daughter to get off her phone.
He wanted to be with his brother. He wanted Jimmy to get away from the damn bloodline and Roman Reigns.
I've never noticed
The
that.
biggest complaint of Uso versus Uso was how many Dane super kicks it had. I'm honestly surprised the Young Bucks didn't file a lawsuit. Guys, that move used to be a finisher. Making it even worse was that Jimmy and Jay didn't sell half of the super kicks. I guess it's those hard Samoan heads. Besides that, the two lacked chemistry. Jimmy Uso's acting in the middle of the match, asking for forgiveness, wasn't good, and the whole ending felt underwhelming. I guess it was kind of fitting that Dude Wipes was the sponsor.
I don't know, bro. Did the match suck? Yes. But what I say, this is a wrestling in general. Like, we've seen a lot of good and a lot of bad I can't say this year, last year. And that's on the list. I don't know. So now I want to know what else is on the list, because if this is on the list, what else is on the list? Like, for example, look, I'm not about to sit here and say I'm going to be one of those people that's going to slander AEW and TNA and all these other promotions. But I'm not, all I'm saying is they've had a lot worse things happen on the other side of the pond than over here. But you know, what do I know? I'm just a fan. I don't know what I'm talking about.
When the Usos debuted in WWE, and this was the payoff. That's 2 additional strikes against WWE, putting them at 3. Number 8, TNA fires Scott D'Amore.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, some other shit happened too.
That the company would be no more. Instead, they were going back to their roots, and they would now be called TNA again. TNA's president, Scott D'Amore, made the announcement with this famous line. The name change became official on January 13th, 2024 at the Hard to Kill pay-per-view.
Right.
Not only that, but the event also had the largest live gate for the company in nearly a decade, so it seemed like TNA was starting off 2023 on the right foot. However, that didn't last long. About 3.5 weeks later, Scott D'Amore was abruptly fired from his position as TNA president. It was never flat out said what the reason was.
I thought that was extremely stupid.
Wanted more to be invested in TNA than what Anthem, TNA's parent company, wanted to invest. Either way, it was upsetting for a lot of wrestlers and fans. Scott D'Amore had been instrumental in helping bring TNA back, and a lot of wrestlers enjoyed working for TNA under his leadership. It seemed like the textbook definition of a lull TNA moment. As I said, TNA had a successful relaunch, and they seem to be on a resurgence. Then, TNA fires its president. Now, to be fair, TNA still has done pretty well.
They have.
5 months after Scott D'Amore's firing, TNA hosted their Slammiversary pay-per-view. That had an even higher attendance than Hard to Kill. Additionally, TNA has expanded its partnership with WWE, with more TNA wrestlers appearing in WWE and vice versa. Scott D'Amore launched his own wrestling company in October 2024, Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. So even though D'Amore's firing wasn't a good thing, it seems like everyone rebounded. Still, that's 3 strikes against TNA.
Bro, I feel like with this, like Scott D'Amore, like I don't know too much about TNA and everything that's going on over there, at least at this current moment right now, but I knew that he was over there, and I knew with him being over there, the product, I ain't gonna say it was getting better, but it's better than what it was. You know, it was starting to become like an underwhelming product to watch. I used to watch TNA all the way up to about like 2016. Once Jeff Hardy and the Hardy Boys and Lashley left in 18, like I was out. Like nothing could have brought me back to the product. When they announced this Hard to Kill and they was going to rebrand Impact Wrestling back into TNA, like that was going to bring me back. But then when they fired, I was like, bro, what the I don't know. It's that shit.
Number 7, Chris Jericho's learning tree.
Oh my gosh, this needs to be number 1.
Y2J seemed to
not really, but high up
to introduce new character or gimmick, and it was almost always a hit. However, in 2024, Jericho hit a bump in the road. In March 2024, Chris Jericho attempted to mentor Hook. When Hook didn't take the bait, Jericho fought and defeated him to become the FTW champion. Y2J then dubbed himself the Learning Tree and began offering unsolicited and arrogant advice. The Learning Tree soon turned into a faction, with Big Bill, formerly known as Big Cass, and Brian Keith at Chris Jericho's side. Now, I get it. The Learning Tree is meant to take the criticism of Chris Jericho and other veteran wrestlers and turn it into a gimmick designed to get boos. But just because I intentionally made a bad meal doesn't mean the food is now suddenly good. Now, I don't think the Learning Tree is inherently bad. I think it has more to do with Chris Jericho. I feel like a lot of people would agree when I say I don't think it would be bad if Jericho went off TV for a while. Why is that? Well, obviously, there were the sexual misconduct allegations that surfaced in late 2023. As far as I know,
I never knew about that.
Any real closure to it, which left a bad taste in people's mouths. There was also the infamous picture of Jericho's wife participating in the January 6th insurrection that began floating around too. But talking about the Learning Tree itself, it just doesn't have the allure like Jericho's other gimmicks. It seems like he's less focused on creating compelling stories and characters and more on getting names and catchphrases over, like, hey guys, TV time, and Nueve. I think Jericho and even AEW would be better if we just had a break from Y2J. 4 strikes for AEW. Number 6, the continuing decay of the NWA. Before I
have no clue about like what they're doing over there.
NWA or any wrestling company failing. That said, I'm gonna be frank about what's happening with the NWA. The COVID-19 pandemic negatively affected the entire wrestling landscape. However, while WWE seemed to come out of it stronger, it was the opposite story for the NWA. Sure, it wasn't just COVID that hurt the NWA, but I think it was the starting point, and things have continued to get worse and worse. In October 2024, NWA Power was taken off the CW app. Granted, NWA wasn't on proper TV, but it was the biggest platform the NWA had ever been on since Billy Corgan took over in 2017. After getting the boot from the CW, NWA began posting episodes of Power to Twitter or X. Now, that wouldn't be such a big issue, but Did you even know that? When
No,
the
I
NWA
didn't.
was bought by Billy Corgan, it had energy and excitement behind it. But as the years went on, the NWA started to become less relevant and mocked more. Sure, Tyrus as NWA World Champion in 2023 wasn't good, but at least people paid attention. If 2023 was the year of mockery for the NWA,
What the hell?
2024 was the year of irrelevance. Again, there's no part of me that enjoys saying that, but that's where we're at. That's 5 strikes against NWA, putting them at number 1. At least for now. Number 5, AEW airs the CM Punk Jack Perry footage. Back in
This was very unnecessary. This did not have to happen at all. This is very unnecessary.
It was the company's biggest event yet in terms of attendance, and what should have been a monumental night for AEW ended up becoming one of its most infamous. Backstage, CM Punk and fellow AEW wrestler Jack Perry got into a real fight. Obviously, there were a number of events that led up to that point, but that whole saga could be a video in of itself. Anyways, the fight was broken up almost as soon as it started, and CM Punk soon left AEW and returned to WWE about 3 months later. In April 2024, CM Punk did a big tell-all interview addressing the incident at Wembley Stadium for the first time. In response to this, AEW announced that they would show the security camera footage of the fight on their flagship show, Dynamite. The footage aired, and while it did increase viewership, it was a case of short-term gains and long-term pains. The decision didn't do anything to help AEW's image or favorability among fans. In fact, it had the opposite effect. Airing the footage just felt desperate, and it seemed like something WCW would do during its final years. It would have been one thing if AEW aired the footage shortly after the incident, but they chose to show it 7.5 months later.
That's what I'm saying, is like,
that AEW was in such a
it just didn't make any sense at the time.
It was a low-quality, silent, 45-second clip of an excellent.
And I feel like all it did was prove CM Punk's point. My fault if I keep pausing the video a lot, but like I said, like, I can't really remember too much about everything that happened here, because this is a pretty old clip, but I don't.
Viewership. I don't know what's worse.
AEW gets a big minus for this.
Or the fact that it worked. That's 6 more strikes for AEW, but there's still 4 more rankings to go. Number 4, WWE and Money. There are a lot of little things that WWE did in 2024.
What does that even mean?
Lumped together. The reason is that, while they are different issues, they all revolve around one thing.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money.
Let's start with the most obvious, WWE's sponsors. Now, WWE has always had advertisers as part of their show, but it's getting ridiculous. Granted, WWE has been ramping up sponsors for a few years now, but 2024 was no exception. Any available spot around the ring seems to have a logo on it now. Not only that, but because there are so many advertisers, it takes time away from the actual show, especially during the PLEs. However, an even bigger offense than that is WWE's adoption of dynamic ticket pricing. This causes tickets to adjust in price based on like demand and timing. This has resulted in WWE tickets skyrocketing in price. WrestleMania 41 tickets, for example, are well into the 4 figures, and some even go for 5. The cheapest tickets I found for both nights of WrestleMania 41 were $1,000, and that's not even counting all the taxes and fees that are added on. But hey, people are still buying them. Also, let's get rid of the post-show press conferences. I know this doesn't exactly fit into this point, but hey, those have sponsors too. Really, the media scrum / press conference idea was neat when AEW introduced it, but I think it's run its course. Particularly for WWE, they're just corporate PR, and WWE patting themselves on the back. Sure, there's the occasional highlight like Cody Rhodes and Jay Uso getting drunk, but those are few and far between. Plus, whenever a good question gets asked, like the Vince McMahon scandal or diversity issues, the response is usually just corporate copy and paste and doesn't really answer anything. That's a whopping 7 strikes for WWE, tying them.
I feel like I'm gonna speak for a lot of people who have already seen this video. That I don't think that should have been up here. Is that really what we're gonna talk about right now? We're gonna talk about press conferences and bread. They made more money. Nah, that wasn't it. I don't like that one.
Number 3, AEW's Decline. Like with the NWA, I don't get
AEW's Decline. Honestly, that should be number 1 in itself.
AEW's biggest business win in 2024. In October, the company announced it had signed a new media rights deal with Warner Brothers Discovery for $550 million, an increase from their previous deal. That's excellent news for AEW, and something that can't be ignored, because there was a lot of bad news in 2024. One of the most obvious is AEW's decline in attendance. Pictures of
Right.
empty AEW arenas.
Like, do you see that this isn't number one?
And what's worse than declining attendance is declining TV viewership. Pretty much all 3 of AEW's TV shows saw a decrease in viewers from each quarter in 2024. Even AEW's flagship show Dynamite brought in fewer viewers in the 4th quarter of 2024 than when Collision and Rampage launched. In fact, AEW Rampage got cancelled in December 2024, presumably because of the numbers it was bringing in. There were also some backstage issues with AEW as well. Wrestlers were being left at home because the company didn't have anything for them, as well as AEW extending some wrestlers' contracts, despite said wrestlers wanting to leave. In general, AEW doesn't have the same excitement that it had when it first launched in 2018. There are a ton of reasons for that, but regardless, 2024 was a mixed bag for AEW, to say the least. 8 strikes for all leagues.
I look at everything from AEW perspective. I look at the booking decisions, the amount of times a certain title may change hands. I look at the amount of talent that they do leave behind home. Like for me, I'm a big Ricky Starks guy. I'm really big on Ricky Starks. Where the fuck is Ricky Starks? And I know he has like other like indie dates and stuff coming up, but he's still there doing nothing. And to me, he's a fucking star. You know what I mean? Like, don't even get me started on AEW. That's a video in itself.
Returns to TNA. In 2020, Tessa Blanchard was a rising star in women's wrestling.
This is pretty bad.
TNA, but seemed inevitable.
This is pretty bad.
In either WWE or AEW. She was that good. In fact, Blanchard became the first and only woman to hold the TNA World Championship. Tessa was on top of the world, and then she destroyed it all with one tweet. In January 2020, Tessa Blanchard posted on Twitter saying, "Hey women, try supporting one another. Cool things happen." This prompted backlash from multiple female wrestlers who said Tessa had bullied women backstage, publicly put them down, tried to blacklist people, and even spat in a black woman's face and called her the N-word. Despite this,
wow,
TNA stood by her and only fired Tessa Blanchard when she refused to come to work. Rather than apologize, Blanchard pretty much doubled down.
So they get rid of her?
As no US company.
So they wait. So they bring her back, but get rid of Scott D'Amore?
Would touch it. That was until December 2024, when TNA secretly rehired Tessa Blanchard. In fact, wrestlers and even some higher-ups in the company didn't know Tessa was being brought back until she arrived backstage for her return. The locker room was reportedly split on Tessa being brought back, but there were people who were glad to see her. Now, it's not so much Tessa Blanchard herself returning that makes this list, but how TNA handled it and the message it sent. The fact that they felt they needed to hide Blanchard's return is a red flag to begin with. However, it feels like a slap in the face. TNA fired Scott D'Amore, someone who is very pro-TNA, helped rebuild the brand, and never embarrassed the company. But they rehired Tessa Blanchard, someone with a list of terrible allegations, and someone who wouldn't film promo videos from her home while being the world champion. I get from TNA's side that they're losing talent, but the way they went about bringing Tessa Blanchard back was completely wrong. 9 strikes against TNA. Now this next ranking will determine which company had the worst 2024. And number 1, Vince McMahon and lawsuits. You knew this was coming. Sure, the allegations against Vince McMahon are just that, allegations. But if just 1% is true, that's more than enough to earn a spot on this list. The Janelle Grant allegations are the most well-known, but there were so many more. Allegations surfaced from a previously unpublished statement from Ashley Massaro, and Vince McMahon and WWE were later hit with an entirely different lawsuit from the infamous Ring Boy scandal. To say WWE's lawyers and PR team had their work cut out for them in 2024 is an understatement. That gives WWE 10 more strikes and gives them the dishonor of having the worst 2024.
I'm gonna pause right there. I don't like, you mean to tell me WWE had the worst 2024? Tap out corner couch of days, buddy. What do you mean? Like, I feel like, okay, if we were looking at, okay, I thought this video would be like more surrounding the wrestling side of things, but he like went like, I guess like behind the camera as well. I don't know about this list, bro. I ain't gonna lie, I don't know about this list. But I do hope you guys enjoyed that reaction. If, like I said, if you are brand new to the channel, make sure you like, subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. I am not a big fan of this list, but some things belong up here, some things don't. That's just my personal opinion. If you have any recommendations, please make sure you leave a comment down below. Also, comment how you feel about the video. Do you agree? Do you disagree with me? Let me know how you feeling down below. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.